Namaste and welcome to day 2 of our 30 days of yoga challenge. So thank you very much for joining me again. So I'm sure you'll probably find over the next 30 days the hardest part is not actually going to be the yoga, but the commitment to roll out your mat. So the fact that you came back, brilliant. So thank you. Today's focus is on staying grounded, grounding yourself. So we're actually going to start laying down. So we'll come down to laying. So laying on your backs, on your mats. Always a comfortable position. Let's just take a couple of breaths. So hands can be either side, or you can have them on the belly. You can always keep the knees bent as well, just to add that in case it pulls on the low back. So just see how that feels. And breathing. So we'll just take a couple of breaths just to start with, to tune in. You can breathe into the belly if you like. So work with an abdominal breath, breathing in, the belly expands. Exhale and softens. Again, breathing in, the belly expands. Exhale and it softens. Okay, so you need a few breaths just to kind of bring your awareness to being more present. So we're going to bring the knees in, so we're going to hug those knees in. Have a little bit of a gentle rock side to side. And then I'm going to have to move myself out a little, a bit too close to the wall. And so make sure you've got space to take your knees down. So arms to the sides. Again, actually I might have to bring my elbows to right angles, but if you've got space, let your arms stretch out. And we're just going to breathe the knees in, so breathing into the center. And then with the out breath, the exhalation, just allowing them to drop to the left side. So you're keeping both shoulders grounded, so you can feel that twist, that stretch through the side body as well. Bringing the knees back to center on the inhalation. Exhale over to the other side. So the knees might touch or they might be hovering. So don't worry either way. You're just going with what's available in your body. Breathe the knees back to center. Exhale to the left again. So we're just going to do 3 times each side. Breathe those knees back to center. Exhale to the right. So again, just getting a spinal twist back to center. One more time each side. So lowering the knees to the side. Breathing back to center. And then over to the right for the last time again. Press those back of the shoulders into the mat. And coming back to center. Okay, so keeping those knees in. What we're going to do from here is we're just going to extend that twist a little. So we're going to take the left foot away. So you might straighten the leg, or you might keep a slight bend. Okay, if you can straighten it and it's not too strong through the front of the leg, so your hip flexors, then straighten it. We're going to take the left hand onto the right knee, let the other arm extend away, and you're just going to encourage the knee across the body. So same idea, keeping the back of the shoulders grounded, just so we're not rolling, but you're making the most of that twist. You can let the head look along the extended arm, so relaxing the neck, the head and the neck. Again, you're working with a spinal twist, but it also should feel a stretch around or along that outer hip. Okay, breathing. And we're not forcing, you're just working with what's available. Coming slowly back to center. We're going to hug both knees in and then change over to the other side. So extending the right leg away, so possibly away, maybe keeping a bend. Right hand, left knee, left arm extends, and you're taking the knee across the body. The gaze can look along the left arm as well. Okay, back of the shoulders connected to the ground. You might have the foot to the knee, foot might be to the floor, just wherever it's comfortable to rest it. Okay. And then just bringing the knees back to center. And we're just going to, again, move connecting with the breath. So the knees are to the chest. So you're breathing in, knees to chest, our arms just by the sides. Exhale, press those heels away and straighten the legs. So you'll feel a stretch through the back of the legs into those hamstrings. The more you press through the heels, draw the toes towards you, the stronger that stretch is going to be. So if it's too strong, just kind of have the toes a little bit more pointed. We'll do this a couple more times, breathing the knees in towards the chest. Exhale, pressing them away. Breathing in, knees to chest. Exhale, pressing those heels away. And then drawing the knees in. I'm going to cross at the ankles here. If you feel okay to rock yourself up to sitting, then do. Otherwise, you can come onto your side first and just draw yourself up. So rocking yourself up is one option, or come onto your side and come a little more slowly up. We're going to come into an all-fours position. So back to our cat-cow that we looked at yesterday. So again, this is going to feature, not every single day, but in quite a few of the sequences. It's just a really gentle but effective way of warming the spine. We'll just take we'll do it 3 times. So we'll breathe in, gaze forwards. Breathing out, tucking under, so that opportunity to stretch across the back of the shoulders. Belly button towards the spine. Breathing in. Exhaling, draw the chin towards the chest, really pressing into the hands. One last time, breathing in, gazes forward. Exhale, tucking under. And then coming back to center. And then we're going to move into thread the needle from here. So I'm just trying to think which way to go. So let's do, if you're facing me, it'll be your right hand anyway. So we're going to take the right arm behind the left arm. So you're threading the needle, so threading the arm really. Taking the side of the face towards the floor, assuming that it's touching the mat. If it's not and it feels uncomfortable, you can always rest the head onto a cushion, perhaps, or a soft yoga block if you have one. So you have options there. But if the arm is threading through and the side of the face comes to the mat, then just kind of being here. Okay, you're stretching, twisting through the upper back here and just enjoying this position. So if you can bring your hands to prayer, if you want to deepen it a little, so the option to bring the hands to prayer, prayer twist, gaze maybe forward, gaze maybe up, and just taking a few breaths here. Okay, so breathing in. Tuck myself in really. Okay. The only thing with these head down positions, the same with downward facing dog and postures like that, you always get totally untucked, so you need to tuck yourselves in, especially if you're in a class and there's other people. Okay, coming slowly back to center, so releasing the arms, coming slowly back to center, and then we're going to repeat and do exactly the same to the other side. So I'm actually going to move myself around so that I'm not facing away from you, but in essence you're going to be taking the other arm behind, so your left arm I think will thread through. So you're from centre, you're moving, threading through the other arm. Again, you've got the option to stay in this position, or you can bring your arms to prayer, or coming into a prayer twist. So the gaze might just be forwards, you might take the gaze up. Well, it's an inversion, so your head is below the heart. I'm sure you can probably feel that. And we're getting a twist through the upper body in particular. Just releasing any holding in this area. And breathing at the same time. Okay, always breathing anyway, always breathing. That awareness of the breath. Okay, and then just slowly releasing. Coming slowly back. So always from twists, moving slowly back to your neutral position. Okay, so I'm moving around. Apologies, it's just so I'm not facing away from you really. Again, we're going to move into downward facing dog, so you might want to tuck yourself in if you're doing this with someone else. Hands to the, back to the mat, tuck those toes, and then we'll lift up into downward facing dog. So we're just going to find a comfortable position. So your feet usually is about hip width apart. If for any reason that's not comfortable, you could always take the mat width If you're really kind of open through the back of the legs and the heels are comfortably down, you could challenge yourself a little bit more and bring the feet together. So you've got options within downward facing dog. So Adho Mukha Svanasana, shoulders away from the ears, and breathing. So if you're new to yoga or you haven't been practicing for a while, it's usually downward facing dog that feels kind of the most challenging to get comfortable with again. It's quite a strong pose, strong through the shoulders, the wrists, but it's because it's building strength here, obviously. And there's a lot of stretch through the spine and the back of the legs as well. So it's a fantastic pose to include in your practice regularly. So from downward facing dog, we're going to come to our three-legged dog. So you're going to take your left leg out behind. You can push the mat away from you, so you're pressing into those hands. Maybe you're going to bring the heel closer to the mat of the standing leg, and then you're going to take the heel towards the bottom and open that hip. So like you're looking under that armpit, okay? It might look a bit funny. It probably feels quite strong if you're not used to it. Okay, good. Definitely a good one to tuck yourself in on. Otherwise everything falls, your top falls down by your head. Okay, and then we're going to close that hip and we're going to lower that foot down. Okay, so we're going to do exactly the same to the other side. Actually, let's take the knees down for a moment. Okay, good. The way I'm chatting and then you're still holding it. Exactly the same to the other side. So if you came down, bringing the bottom and the hips back up again. So we're going to do the same to the other side. You're going to take your left leg, the right leg, sorry, out behind this time. Bend the heel towards the bottom, and then you're going to turn and open the hip to the other side. Okay, so just doing exactly the same thing. Pushing into the hands to keep that length through the spine. And then we're closing that hip, we're taking the foot down, just kind of settling back into your neutral position. Bring the feet towards the hands, so you're coming back into Uttanasana. Allow yourself to hang down just for a breath or two, so your ragdoll, arms dangling or holding the inside of their elbows. Okay, and then we're just going to take the hands to the hips. And you can either come up with a flat back or you can roll yourself up like we did yesterday. So always either or option here. Okay. So we're just going to have a look at balance while we're standing. Somebody's going to be a little bit more focused on standing. I just wanted to say in advance, really, because we're looking at short practices, some days might be a little bit more grounded, so close to the mat. Some days might be a little bit more work on standing postures. So I'm just going to include a couple of postures before we move back down again, just to have that kind of balance. So we're going to come to Vrukshasana, which is tree pose. So this is a really good starting kind of balance, or one that everyone would be aware of, familiar with. So we're going to take our weight into the left foot, and you're going to bring the other foot into place. So you might keep it really gentle, just have the heel to the ankle, but the toes off. So this is a balance, we're balancing on one leg. You might bring it a little higher, so the sole of the foot to the, just below the knee. You might have the foot a little bit higher, so the heel is coming closer to the pelvis, so above the knee, just never on the knee. If you're comfortable with it, you can come into Ardha Padmasana, so your half lotus position. Either way, you want your hips to be level, just so you're not kind of sinking into it, but drawing up tall. So find your comfortable position. It's a hip opening pose as well, so your knee is opening out. I'm going. If your knee were a wall, you could always use the wall. Okay, lifting, spreading the toes, pressing them back down again. Drawing up tall through the crown of the head. You can keep your hands to your hips. You can bring them to prayer at the heart center. You can bring them up overhead, so they might come overhead, hands together. I know you can't see my hands, can you? So my hands are like this, or you can bring them out, okay? Very difficult to fit the whole of me in the on the screen, or I'll have a play around with that over the 30 days. So hands together or hands apart, but use your drishti, so your focal point. I'm just looking at a blank wall. You might have a picture in front of you, or a lampshade or something. Just pick a focal point and use that point to kind of zone into, and then to allow you to kind of zone out. And breathing, okay? Drawing up. If you need to place your foot down, come back into it, then do so. Okay, so Vrikshasana, tree pose. Balance is with building strength, flexibility, obviously different places depending on the balance, focus, concentration. So lots of things going on within balance, and balance obviously. And then releasing the most obvious benefit of a balance, and then releasing the legs. So give the legs a little bit of a shake, and then exactly the same to the other side. I'm trying to move back a bit to fit more of me in. Exactly the same to the other side. It might feel the same, it might feel different. So you'll find your foot placement, whichever one you did on the one side, quite possibly will be the same, but just come to where it's comfortable. If you've got slippy leggings, might feel quite slippy, you need to really kind of press the thigh into the foot. Sorry. Okay. Oh dear. All right. Okay. Hands to the hips just to check they're in the right position. Hands to press over. You can keep them here. You can move the hands to prayer, the heart center. You can take them up overhead, hands together or hands apart. So your choice, whichever is more comfortable for you. And breathing, so you find your drishti. Soften the toes, so if you feel like you're gripping those toes, just kind of soften them a little. Okay. When you kind of stop thinking about the pose, you can settle into the breath. When you settle into the breath, the balance just becomes a lot easier and you're not thinking about it so much. Okay. So as soon as you can, when you're in your pose, bring your awareness to the breath and just see if it helps you to find a little more focus, more balance. Okay, and then bringing those hands down, release the legs, give them a little bit of a shake. Okay, and we're just going to come into Prasarita Padottanasana. So we'll have the feet parallel, have them parallel. Let's come into the shoulders, I think. So if we clasp the hands behind the back, so you're opening across the chest, and then hinging from those hips and folding forward. So depending on the degree of, or your range of movement around your shoulders, you might find you're quite close to the back with the fists. You might find you can go a little bit deeper. So you just go to where's available. You'll feel a nice stretch at the back of the legs. If that is too much, take a slight bend through the knees. That will release the hamstrings and release the back. If you feel like you're really sitting into those heels, just shift the weight slightly forward into the balls of the feet. That will deepen the hamstring stretch and the stretch up the back of the legs. Head, neck relaxes, nod, shake the head. Any issues with the back, obviously, you don't need to come all the way down. You can always kind of hover parallel to the floor if it feels too much pressure, or just come out when you need to. Okay, a couple of breaths here. Prasarita Padottanasana. Lots of different variations within this pose. And we're just opening into the shoulders here. And then take those hands back, onto the hips, and then either roll up or come up nice and slowly with a flat back. Okay, always kind of moving nice and slow. We're going to bring the feet together now and come down through a toe squat. So if we just have the hands out in front, or you can have them to prayer at the heart center, whichever you feel better to do. Come onto the toes and nice and slowly and with a degree of control come down into a balance. Okay, you might be on your toes, you might be on your heels. If you can come onto your toes, do. If it's not available, come to your heels. We'll bring the hands to prayer at the heart center. Okay, maybe bring the arms out. Challenge the balance a little. Breathing them in, breathing out. Okay, one more time. Takes concentration, breathing in. Exhale. and releasing down. There you go, we did it. Okay, coming down to sitting. So we're just going to do one more posture, a seated posture, before we close this practice for today. So we're going to bring the legs out in front. So this is Dandasana, staff pose. We're going to come into Janu Shirshasana, which is head to knee pose. I like to call it head towards knee pose because it changes, or you'll see. We're going to have, let's bring the right foot in towards the body, so the heel is as close to the perineum pelvis as possible. We are working as a hip opener here, so any issues with this knee, if you have a block or a cushion or something, if it feels too open or it's pulling, you can always pop a block or a cushion under that knee to support it. Okay, flesh from the sit bones, so like we did in Upavista Konasana yesterday, breathing the arms up, lifting up, folding forward. So you're going to let your hands rest wherever it's comfortable to rest them. You might find you're sitting quite high up to begin with, or if you feel quite tight through the hamstrings or the back, you might find you're naturally quite open here. So the hands might be to the floor, to the low leg, maybe to the toes. And then so the reason I don't want to say head to knee pose is because then you'll round the back. You want to think more chin to shin. So if you're very flexible, you're going to be belly to the thigh, and you're going to be aiming your chin to your shin over time. Okay? So no forcing, and it doesn't matter where you end up. As long as you can feel that stretch through the back of the leg, hamstrings, and along the spine. Gaze might be to the toes, gaze might be down. So let's just take a couple more breaths here. Okay, and then you've got your hands, release the hands, just coming slowly back up to sitting up. Okay, exactly the same on the other side. Again, it might feel the same, it might feel different. All we need to do really is to observe our bodies, notice how we feel in the poses, just to kind of connect really. So flesh from the sit bones, just no judgment. If you can't do something or a particular posture doesn't feel so good, it just is what it is. So don't judge yourself over it. Everything comes with time and with practice. So breathing those arms up, lifting up, just so we're lengthening the spine. Hands to rest, so floor, leg, foot, length. So shoulders away from the ears. It's just so you're not rounding, but you're keeping those shoulders away, creating length in the spine, and then folding into it, just to your measure, to what's available. Okay, and breathing. So remember, your gaze can stay to the toes, or you might look down to the leg. We'll just settle in, take a couple more breaths. Okay. And then releasing. So hands to the floor, peeling yourselves back up. Okay. And then we'll just bring the legs in. So back to a comfortable seat. We're going to come into a twist. So actually, let's have the left leg in front first of all. Assuming this is comfortable, you might find it's more comfortable underneath. Just a gentle twist, just to round off. So we'll just take the left hand onto the right knee, the other hand behind you to support, lifting up, so shoulders away from the ears, lifting up through the chest, gaze towards that back shoulder. So you've got a little bit of a twist here. So just a gentle seated twist. Breathing. And then slowly back to center. Okay, same to the other side. So opposite hand, one hand behind, just to keep the spine tall so you don't kind of soften, slump into it. Lift up through the chest, gaze over the back shoulder or towards the back shoulder. And breathing. Okay. Breathing as fully as you can, and then coming slowly back to center. Okay. So we're just going to close our practice today if you, I did film a 5-minute or so Shavasana video, so if you want to take time for Shavasana, then you can follow this video on with the short Shavasana video. Otherwise we'll close our practice together, so we'll bring our hands to prayer. Thank you for joining me today, and well done for completing day 2 of this challenge. Namaste. I see you tomorrow.